Today we're gonna make pepperoni pizza wheels. These are great. They're very easy to make. I'm gonna show you how to do it just how a New York pizzeria does it. So I always like to show you all the ingredients, the prep work, everything. But the only prep work I did was the 5 cloves of garlic. Pizza dough has been out of the fridge roughly 3.5 hours. Just gonna make it easier to spread out, to stretch it. For the cold cuts, we have mozzarella cheese, pepperoni, and the boiled ham. So for this sauce, it's just the garlic. I have 1 can of Mutti tomatoes, which, you know, I've been using them a couple times now, switching away from the Sclafani. In that sauce, we're gonna have a little bit of Sicilian oregano. You can use regular oregano if you don't have access to that. And then I have some just regular flour. If you have semolina, use that for when we put the roll down. It's gonna make it not stick, but you can use regular flour as well. Let's get into making that sauce first because we need the sauce for the pinwheel. So we're gonna do medium-low. We're using a non-stick pan. We don't need to preheat this pan at all. I'm using extra virgin. Use regular olive oil if you want. It doesn't matter, guys. About 5 cloves sliced. Okay, my garlic is getting lightly golden. Maybe about 45 seconds more, but that's okay because we're gonna put hot pepper in. We'll let that cook for about that amount of time. I'm gonna put about a 1/4 teaspoon. If you like more, by all means, add more. You know, customize these dishes, make them your own. I've come around, I've evolved a lot since I've started this channel. I used to never use crushed tomatoes, but you know, a couple of people maybe in the comments told me, you know, this brand's good. I use them all the time now, they're great. Of course, I'm an idiot, and I just opened up peeled tomatoes. So, all right, I'm gonna put them in, I'm gonna go for it. We're gonna crush these by hand. And I'm gonna turn this off before I burn my garlic. They were mixed and matched in the store the other day, so that's okay. These are gonna be great too. These are imported from Italy, this brand, and you know, it's not San Marzano, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm gonna do a shield hand, right? And then we're just gonna get in there, and we're gonna break them, and we're gonna try not to get it all over ourselves. That's perfect. All right, I lost all that footage, but I got the tomatoes in here now, all right? The garlic was perfectly golden, all that. I was talking to the camera for like 3 minutes, and then I just realized both of them. I have remotes, I clicked both of them for both cameras. Neither one went off. I'm only gonna let these cook for about 5-7 minutes. We're doing a very quick sauce here. You know, traditionally like a pizza sauce wouldn't be cooked at all. You would just open up a can of tomatoes, a little bit of salt. But since this is like our dipping sauce, marinara, that's gonna be on the side, we wanna cook it for a few minutes. It's gonna take some of the water out of here. If you don't think you're crushed enough, you could just take the back of your spoon and you could just try to crush it a little bit more. I'm out of kosher salt, so I just filled up my little salt thing with sea salts from Costco, right there. It's gonna be a little saltier than the kosher salt because simply kosher salt is a coarser grind and there's like air gaps in there. Put a little bit to start, mix that in. These tomatoes smell so good. And all I'm gonna do here, guys, to further that New York pizza flavor is I got Sicilian oregano. So I'm just gonna take it. About a 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon to start. All right, my sauce is already fine. I'm gonna lower this, turn it off. I don't wanna make it too thick here. I want enough to be on the side for us for dipping. Give it a little taste. Those are amazing tomatoes. So good. All right, we're gonna need this for making the pinwheel. So let it cool for about 5 minutes. Just take it off to the side, and then we're gonna start rolling out the dough. So this is a 3.5-4 hour out of the fridge dough ball. It's warm. We don't have to worry about stretching, so we can use a roller for here. You have to hand stretch it when you're doing a regular pizza because you wanna maintain a lot of the air bubbles in it. But here you can roll it out. I'm gonna flour my surface. So here is our pizza dough ball. Take a little bit more flour on top, but you don't really have to. And I'm just gonna turn it over. I love these plastic things because it comes out perfectly. This is more important if you were gonna make like a regular pizza, but this would be way too much dough to make a regular pizza. Don't really have to worry about top and bottom here either, okay? This is 700 grams of dough, so this is gonna be fairly large. You're gonna look for about maybe a 14 by 18 rectangle. If you were working with smaller amount, just make a smaller rectangle. That's all you have to do. So what I'm doing simply is like I can just form a rectangle by pushing out the corners and then then I can take my hands and I can bring it back in and I can kind of square this up like this. So I'm doing all this without having to resort to using a cutter or anything, which will allow me to use the full 700 grams of dough. You know, you could grab a corner like this, okay, again, you just pull. Hold, pull. This took about 10 minutes and the sauce has been cooling probably 5 minutes before, it's probably 15. You want your sauce to be relatively cool. What you can do is immediately after you make that sauce, you can take a half cup of it, because that's all you need about. We just need a little bit. Put it in the fridge or the freezer to cool it off. We don't want to put hot sauce on top of this dough right now. Or if you forgot to do that, you can just put some plastic wrap over your dough, prevent it from drying out too quickly, and then just wait for your sauce for another 10 minutes, and then we'll get to it. You don't want too much sauce here. I probably don't even need this much. And I'm gonna leave the outside edge of it uncovered. I'm just gonna take a brush and just spread it around. Just gonna add a little bit of wetness in there. And good flavor too. Try to get it over to here because I'm not folding the edges under like you normally would do with a stromboli. So you do want to get the sauce for here over because we're gonna roll it this way. And that was probably about a half to 3/4 a cup of the sauce. The one ingredient I forgot to tell you too is Pecorino Romano. We're gonna sprinkle that on top, but for now, these cold cuts are what's going inside of it. So we have the mozzarella, the pepperoni, and the ham. I'm gonna start with the ham. This isn't critical what you start with. And I have a half a pound of ham here. All right, I'm gonna put the cheese in. And you know, I got 12 pieces here. I can tell already that I'm gonna fall up short, so I'm just gonna leave some gaps in between. That's it. Provolone would be great for this too. All right, and then finally, the pepperoni. And I would say you probably need about 40 slices of it, so yeah, have them cut it fairly thin for you. All right, so for my size dough, this was, remember, 700 grams of dough, which is 24 ounces. I've rolled this out to about 18 by 14, maybe 18 by 15. I'm just gonna roll this up into a log here. That's it. You can cut this right away if you got a really sharp knife, but it's so much easier just to put this in the freezer for about 25 minutes, 20 minutes. It'll set up more and it'll be much easier for you to cut. At this time, you could set your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit and set the rack to the middle level. Guys, I just took it out of the freezer after 15 minutes, but what's up, pal? What were you gonna say? Thanks, buddy. He's telling me that I'm doing well with YouTube. I appreciate that, James. And he's also telling me how he wants to eat this. Hopefully I can cut it without making too much of a mess. So use the sharpest knife you have and the thinnest knife you have. This is my thinnest of the big knives I have. I'm gonna cut them about 1.25 inches thick. This doesn't have to be exact. All right, that's good though. And you could kind of turn it like how I just did there, make it more round. You don't really need it now, you got the parchment, but it's always nice to not have to worry about anything sticking. And these two are gonna be the fat ones, which might make it better, and that's another thing. You can test it, you can try, you might say, oh, they were better if they were bigger. I mean, the pizzeria that I got them from around here, they were huge. The one last thing is the Pecorino Romano. So this is just gonna add a ton more flavor. I kind of sometimes use Pecorino on this channel, like once or twice, And I have a 1/4 cup here. You could even sprinkle the Pecorino at the end. You could pull it out, kind of how we do on the grandma. We put the Pecorino at the end, but I think it'll be all right, like this. All right, guys, so they look really good. I probably would have cooked maybe a little bit less of a temperature.
This looks delicious.
They look good, right? Don't they look like a pizzeria?
Yeah, they do, for making these.
You're welcome, buddy. So remember, guys, that sauce from before, I made the sauce is inside there, but then we have more of it. You're welcome. I'm gonna let this cool down a bit before you take a bite, okay?
Yeah, so let's do.
Yeah, and the sauce might cool it down a little bit.
Good.
I'm a little worried today.
I'm worried.
Because I don't know, you don't seem like it doesn't seem like he's gonna give such a good rating.
A 7.5.
Okay.
But I like the sauce. I don't really know. I think it is the pepperoni.
Okay.
I'm not really a big fan of pepperoni plain. I like pepperoni on like pizza.
Okay. Well, thank you, James.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Special thanks to Patreon producers Chris Whalen, Steve Winitsky, Paul Walter Hauser, Elizabeth Shaw, Joe Hardage, John Andolino, Kenneth Parker, Matt Fisher, Tom Branca, Mike Tamburino, Matthew Amore, Richard P. Bornvanek, Alex Eckleberry, Andrew Uhas, Paul Batman, Patrick Lang, John Kelly, Jonathan Papini, Ronnie Mask, Trevor, JB, Monica Tarot, Josh Avon, Ed Calamag, Daryl Crone, Pedro Basso, Patricia M. Siefkin, Andy W., Frank Crum, Michael LaRocca, and James McVeigh.